right. Well, welcome to another episode with the Profit Minded Business Podcast. And of course, we've come here to celebrate the small business owner, but also help teach one another things that we can avoid, but also things that have made us tremendously successful. The whole goal of our being here is to learn from one another and to help others learn from our success and failures. So today I'm joined by Brett Yokley of Marietta's Better Business Gym and Janet Killingsworth of Killingsworth Spencer CPA here in the Roswell area. Brett, tell us a little bit about, you've been doing this for 30 plus years. Tell us what your passion is, or how did this all come about? Tell us about your business.
Well, you got to be passionate about it, because I wouldn't have done it this long if I didn't like it. And the business, we focus on people over 40, because those, just to be flat out honest, that's the people that need it the most. That's the group that needs it the most.
Yeah.
And that's about the time you start thinking about longevity and about your health, and, aches and pains start kicking in, start gaining weight, accumulated body fat.
Right.
Everything starts to pile on at that time. And then you start thinking, okay, I got to get in shape. I got to finally lose this, because you start seeing people in their 50s and 60s that you don't want to be like. Mm-hmm. So that's usually the thing the pivotal point anyway, that makes someone decide to do something about it. So,
it's, I've been spending a lot of time in personal wealth management, helping people understand retirement. And I think the biggest factor of having a happy retirement is your health. And when I run into someone like you, I think that, especially with your model focusing on the over 40, that it's really just a godsend of helping folks figure out how to deal with it. Do you talk about that? I know you said the longevity effect, but does it ever play into people who are already aware that this is so critical to a good, healthy retirement?
No, not really. They already know that. I assume they know that.
Yeah.
That's why they come there.
Right.
I mean, they're talking to me. When I was starting doing this in 1983, vast majority of my clients were over 40, mm-hmm. because that's the person that'll spend the money.
Right.
If I got a 25-year-old coming in there, they don't do it very long.
Right.
Because they're impulsive, and people that are older, a little more, disposable income, and they stick to things more. They're not impulsive, and they can stick to a game plan.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that, and really, have you always been you said you're in Marietta now. Have you always been in that area, or where are you from originally?
No, I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
I moved out here in 1998, the end of 98.
So most people tend to move to Scottsdale.
Yeah. Yeah, I came out here on a complete business move. And
nice.
I mean, personal business. I came out here for professional wrestling.
Oh, okay.
World Championship Wrestling. So I got an offer, and I came out and did that for a couple of years, and it really was not a good fit for me.
Okay.
So I ended up staying here, continuing training, and ended up opening a gym, and been here ever since.
What made you decide to be a business owner? When you open up your own gym, that's a big step.
Traditionally, if you don't sign your name on a lease and take the responsibility, you're working. Traditionally, trainers work inside of gyms. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of archaic. Today, they all work for the corporate gyms.
Right.
There's the gyms that are franchise gyms that you can go in there, make a deal with the owner. Those are gone. There's not independent trainers anymore working inside of a gym. They're all working for either,
LA
Fitness,
right.
Lifetime, that kind of thing. And they're on the payroll. And
okay.
So you got to take the leap. That's what I want to do, is be a business, because if your business is inside of another business and the other business shuts down, mm-hmm. you're done too.
It's just a job at that point.
Well, it's always just a job. If you're working, I mean, you own a job.
Well, I guess that's one of the things.
I like to call it a business, but if you're in there working every single day, all the time.
Do you find that's one of the frustrations you experience, is having to be there all the time? Like, do you have a map for?
No, it's not a frustration. That's why I said earlier, you got to love what you want. You got to really love what you do.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time, and I've thought about it before, and I'm good at it. And I'm not good at it because, I'm good at it because I like it.
Sure.
It's not the other way around. It's
Right.
not, I like it because I'm good at it. I have a passion for it.
Now, have
So,
you?
And it's lasted 35 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like you've really done it the right way.
And a lot of people burn out. In any kind of business, they burn out.
Right.
They take what they make in the first 10 or 15 years, and they always have the, dreams of going into something else that they completely don't know anything about.
Yeah, sure.
And then it's a big risk.
Have you found that, have you had to hire many trainers over the years, and how have you developed that team around you?
Yeah, I've hired trainers. I've always stuck to a system because there has to be a system, a team. And I know other places that'll let their trainers do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no continuity there. And that's credibility over the years. So I've had trainers all the way from same uniforms, a list of exercises that they agreed to that they don't do.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many you can do that, just during certain things that I know over the years that it's bigger risk than benefit.
As far as what?
Getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
You can get injured working out.
Sure.
And I've seen trainers in gyms that wouldn't be working for me, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, so how many trainers do you have working within your gym now?
Right now it's me, my wife, and I've got another trainer.
Okay. So it's a small group, so now it's easy to kind of monitor that and keep a quality control.
Yeah. That's kind of dictated by the size of your gym, too.
Sure.
The space. Because it's supposed to be private.
Mm-hmm.
And if I start getting to the point where there's 10 people in a small space, then that private is no longer private.
Right.
Then it's just going into a gym. That's why they go there in the first place. They feel comfortable. They're not intimidated by a gym.
Mm-hmm.
Just laid back.
And really, it sounds like that's your business model versus an LA Fitness, obviously, is that you don't want a whole group of people working around each other or the trainers trying to give you that workout when there's a whole space of people.
Yeah, in that, you need to give people their space.
Okay.
You could do it if it's bigger than my place. You could increase the amount of people in there, but you would really have to do it slowly because people just like their space.
Yeah, sure.
They want the attention from a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
You better give it to them.
Sure. Do you, over the years, you must have kind of created your step-by-step for a client to come in and find the weight loss they're looking for or get on the health track. How much of that now for you is just, this is just what it is, or is there still a custom component to it all?
Well, you got to figure out your marketing. Number one, you got to get them in the door. Because working out is something that people really don't want to volunteer for or go after.
Right.
It takes no effort to eat donuts, and it's pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
It just costs you money every morning.
Right.
There's no effort. In order to work out, people can say, well, I can't afford it or I don't have the time, but really the truth is they don't want to put the effort into it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could make my personal training free, and they still wouldn't come in.
Right.
So money's not the point.
Yeah.
But, the marketing's got to be set up first, and then you got to get them to come in. And, I remember a long time ago, I used to just vomit all this information on people as much as I could when they first came in the door, and they were just, I had no system set up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a client of mine that was pretty knowledgeable in that, and they talked to me about that one time, and the light bulb went off, and I started having a system.
Great.
And I started doing an assessment sheet, because the more you come in and have an assessment sheet that's got legitimate questions about the health history and things like that, then you become more legitimate yourself.
It elevates you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did you, the light bulb went off and you said, okay, I really need a process and a step-by-step system. So if someone comes in, not only are you provide the credibility an assessment gives you, but then you actually had a roadmap to follow. So did you, how did you develop that? I'm sure the light bulb went off, but then you were left to kind of go, well, now what do I do?
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning that when I was younger, I spent a lot of time trying to sell.
Okay.
And I don't really try to sell anymore because I already know when they come in the door, they're already sold, or they wouldn't be there.
Sure.
Common thing I say to people, when you're looking for groceries, you're going to Publix and Kroger. You're not looking for hammers or chainsaws there.
Right.
So when you come through this door, you're here for fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And they laugh and they nod their head, and I'll tell you what, that cuts 15 minutes of just gibberish off there.
Right.
And plus I'm at the same age they are.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier when I started, I was 21 years old, and I was talking to people that were 40s and 50s, same age group as I have now. But I was trying to relate to them. We didn't listen to the same music, the idiosyncrasies, the sayings were different, everything. So even though they liked me and I was nice, different generation. But now I can make little comments and certain things about era and generation type stuff, and they get it. My sayings match their sayings.
Right.
And they feel comfortable because I'm a guy sitting across the desk just like they are, talking to them. That happens to be a personal trainer and is really fit, and he's done it for 35 years.
Right.
So I don't put on any pretenses. Very straightforward with people, and I think they appreciate that when they're over 40 and 50.
Right.
They don't have time to be sold. They want to buy something.
Right.
Nobody ever wants to be sold anything.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. So, okay, by the time they come to you, they already have their why. So you're not having to help them understand that why part. Because like you said, people don't really want to go to the gym. They don't really want to work out. They do it for some reason. And at over 40, now the reason becomes even more clear. What would you say your typical customer's why is? Like why they're doing that, why they're motivated? You said health and longevity, but is that what they're telling you?
No. That's all logical reasons that their doctor's telling them.
Exactly.
They're just repeating stuff. People that say that, they say, I need to work out, or I want to work out. They're not even close.
Right.
When somebody says, I'm going to work out, or I have to work out, just a little closer. But really, the fact is they've been dealing with this frustration and being disappointed in themselves for a long time, and they're just getting to the point where the pain of not working out and the pain of lifting with their body, and they're unhealthy. That pain gets bigger than the actual pain of committing to working out and paying the money.
Now, what does that pain look like? Like further that, deepen that, because that's important for everyone to hear. Is
frustration, obviously, stepping on the scale every day, and then after a while, you don't step on the scale. Why beat yourself up? And they've already tried Weight Watchers. They've already tried. Weight Watchers are pretty good. I shouldn't say that, but other things, the fad diets and everything else that comes along, and pretty soon they just stay away from it. There's a lot of people that dread New Year's.
Yeah, sure.
People, because they know it's like, oh God, another New Year's resolution, another year of failure. So they don't make them. They make financial commitments.
Yeah.
And resolutions. But the ones they make for fitness are usually like the old college try.
Sure.
Which means you're going to give up.
Yeah. So I'm turning 40 in March, and I'm starting to feel that way. Like even at 35, I said, okay, this is the year, and I kind of delayed it. The New Year's resolution that kind of came and went, like you said. But my body is starting to, I feel it now. I'm achy. I shouldn't have the problems. My feet, things are hurting differently now. So is that part of why people are coming in, is because they're just not being active actually creates pain? Yeah.
That's true.
Now I've got a toddler, so now when I'm jumping around later on the next day, my knees hurt. It blows my mind. I was a sports guy. Why are my knees hurting? Yeah. And I was just doing, funny dance moment kind of with my kid.
But if I asked you right now, give me the top 3 reasons why, and you got 5 seconds to answer, you could tell me the top 3 reasons why.
As far as why I should be in the gym?
No, why it hurts.
Oh, because I'm sedentary. I haven't been working my muscles out, so the support system isn't there, and I think overall it's just not. I'm not active like I should be.
Yeah. First thing I do when people come in the gym is I check their body weight and their fat percent.
Yeah.
Because I want them to see it in black and white, because they're going to be dealing with me all the time.
Right.
I'm not going to pretend that they're not heavy. I'm not going to pretend that they're not overweight.
Right.
That's why they're there.
Right.
So I break that down right off the bat, and I let them know that I'm not looking down at them. I'm there to help them.
Sure.
So get past that and develop a plan, and then go forward on how you're going to get to the goal, your success.
And that roadmap, is it very similar for most people? I mean, you give them a meal plan, a diet regimen.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, it's similar with everybody. I mean, it's not like I've had in this gym that I have now. I've had over 750 clients sign up. Some stay a long time, some are 3 months, 6 months. But in all that, I've had 2 people that came in that wanted to gain weight.
Oh, I wanted
so
to
the
gain
common
weight.
denominator is everybody wants to lose weight.
Sure.
So losing weight is not rocket science. Everybody knows, we all know how to lose weight.
Yeah.
You just got to go pay someone to look at you and watch over you to magically make it happen. But we all know we eat too much, we eat the wrong things.
Yeah.
Day after day. That's why you want to make the commitment. Part of that is the commitment. That way you can be accountable to somebody else that you've got to answer their questions, and
right.
They don't listen to your rationalizations and your justifications on everything.
Yeah, true enough. Okay, so someone comes into your gym and you sit down with them, you kind of have them, the wake up call happens, and you say, I'm here, I'm going to cut right to the chase. Here's the plan, we're going to knock this out, and you're going to achieve the goals we've laid out, whether it's losing weight, whether it's feeling better, feeling healthier, all those areas. How many people stick to it? And would you consider, maybe your numbers as far as the success rate, but people still drop off, right? They still bail out after a while just because of the nature of humans. Mm-hmm. How many people typically stick with it and achieve those goals?
Percentage-wise?
I don't know if that's kind of putting you on the spot, but you know what I'm saying?
I'm
in
fine
general.
With that.
9 out of 10, 5 out of 10.
Not considering all the extraneous circumstances that might happen in their life.
Right. You have to somehow cut those out.
Looking at everybody like they're all apples. I would say their real goal when they first came in, because that's really what I say, what do you want to get to? Now, you can either be a certain body fat or it can be weight, but I don't want it to be a vague goal. It's got to be something number that we can shoot for. I would say probably 2%.
2%. That's fantastic that you just dropped that number out there.
Yeah.
2% stick with it.
Yeah.
That is insane.
And there's reasons why, but I'm not going to talk about it
Yeah.
here.
Wow. That was painful to hear, Brett.
It's true.
Wow.
Because most people, they say you're 220, you want to drop down to one, that's maybe 220 is high, but you're 200. Let's use an even number.
Yeah.
And their goal is to get down to, pie in the sky. I don't want them to say, I want to get back to my high school weight because those days are gone. That's like thinking you're going to sprinkle magic fairy dust all over your head and it's going to magically happen. But say they wind up saying they want to do 165. So usually they underestimate how tough it is.
Yeah.
And how long it takes. That's why they're overweight and like that in the first place.
Yeah.
And then usually what I'll see is they get to a weight they're comfortable with. Not even anywhere close to their goal that they had written down.
Right, but they've lost some weight.
They might get down to 185, and by then I can already see, because most of my business is psychology. Mm-hmm. Reading between the lines.
Interesting.
If you listen hard enough, people will tell you what they're really trying to say in so many words.
That's great.
That
you're right on the money on that one. Yeah, that's troubling, 2%. But I get you. So okay, but you're discounting the people who lose weight and their clothes feel better, they feel better, but now they're not 165, but they're 185, 190.
You wanted to find out about reaching their goal. That's their goal.
That was good.
That's technically. But how many people lose weight and do themselves good? Mm-hmm. 95%.
There you go. Yeah, and that makes sense. I know anyone
I can look, you got to be optimistic about it, because what would they be like if they'd never decided to train?
Right.
Or never decided to stick to an exercise program and made the commitment to it? They would have been much worse off. So as far as being healthier, having more energy, more mobile, and happier about themselves, definitely 95%, even more.
But bottom line is that they have to have the accountability, right? I mean, that's a key component of them being successful, even if they're only just going to lose some weight and get healthier.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, if you could just not show up at the dentist office and not worry about you charging your credit card, you would.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got to call and cancel or call and reschedule, because if you don't show up, they're going to hit your credit card. That's accountability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes you responsible.
Sure.
So, same analogy.
All right. And then, one of the things that we were just briefly talking about before this was there's a lot of folks now that are, using some sort of an online course or a digital course, or, right now they're on the phone, there's an app this, app that. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on, within your own mindset about what it means to go online, and for, even in the context we were just talking about of accountability, what does that do for somebody who isn't walking in and being with you in the gym and having you help them through that roadmap?
Well, I thought about doing online training for years, but the one missing piece of the puzzle would be the accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can I be in Scottsdale, Arizona, or Marietta, Georgia, and somebody from California or Hawaii wants me to train them online or Skype?
Right.
Skype's probably a little more realistic, but it took me a long time to realize the missing piece of that puzzle and to get the accountability, because that's the biggest thing. But I do have where I train people online now. It's called Fit Over 40 Trainer.
Okay.
And that seems to be going really well. And the way I have it set up is a complete assessment system online.
Nice.
That's the key thing. And for them to make commitments to it. And they get customized meal plans, energy generated for them. I create those.
Okay.
And then the workouts. And it's all based on body typing, but I don't do the 3 body types like the mesomorph, ectomorph, and endomorph.
Okay. What do you do?
I have different body typing where it's upper body fat. From what I've seen, this is based on what body types respond to different workouts.
Smart.
And different foods, which that's a little more closely matched. The workouts are more important. Somebody that's got wider hips, you don't want them doing squats. It just makes your hips bigger. All my programs, all my exercises are designed to slim the hips, to work the front and the back of the leg.
Okay.
Not the sides, not the abductor or the adductor muscles.
So you really take into consideration of how the body is built, not just through the 3 common types, but really about where they're going to see the most results. If they're the arms, the hips.
Yeah, and that breaks it down in the assessment. I ask them where do you really want to focus on?
Okay.
And there's quite a bit of choices they can make on where they want to focus on.
Yeah, so you customize it to that exact person's body type, which is great. When you say that you do it online, you've really provided people a convenience factor. I mean, I think one of the barriers that I faced, even though I'm, not quite there yet with my why kind of a thing, just because I have to relate to myself here, is the convenience factor. So having it online, at least, if you have to compromise on the accountability, the convenience factor is there. When you do things online with folks, whether through Skype or just through the online assessment type process, what do you find lacks with accountability, and is that trade-off worth it to some people?
What do you mean specifically?
Yeah, I kind of wandered on that one. What I really mean is, to me, I think the biggest barriers, other than the financial barrier, if you remove the financial barrier, it's convenience, and then, needing that accountability to be successful. For me, it's like, okay, my wife, for instance, has a hard time just getting to the gym. Because we have a toddler, so she's got to take him to the daycare. So LA Fitness has a daycare there, so that's kind of convenient. But at the same time, it's still working that into her life, into our lives. So having it online seems like a really nice way to approach trying to get healthier in life, especially over 40.
Yeah, the convenience factor has got to be one of the main things, because that's going to come up. That's a big reason why people won't go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Because either they don't have enough time, which that's an excuse, but still give them that. And there's some legitimacy to that. I see that, I mean, I know I'm really tuned into that. I mean, women come in and sit down and talk to me, and I said, I understand. You've been dealing with 3 kids, and your husband works every single day, and you've been doing for everybody else for the last 15 years, and all of a sudden now you look at yourself and you're like, now your kids are getting to that age where they're going out and doing things. You're not a taxi anymore.
Right.
Maybe off to college. Now it's time to do something for yourself. You deserve it. So that's the biggest response I see from the ones that are applying and signing up with me online.
That's great.
Because it's about convenience. But you don't want to make it convenient, and if it's just
it doesn't help.
A program that's not good.
Right.
And there are other ones out there that do it. But believe me, what I've seen is, without denigrating them, I'm not an online marketer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not some guy that works out in the gym every once in a while and I look good in a tank top, so I decided to be a trainer online.
Right.
Because that's really what it is. I'm the real deal. I've been doing this for 35 years. I own a gym, and I also train people online. And I let that fact be known right out front to everybody.
Right.
So they can tell the difference.
That's strong.
And it's not a one-size-fits-all program. It never is. And there's going to be mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend that everybody's going to get the perfect program and they're going to be on it for the next 20 years. And it's going to work wonders. You got adjustments to make.
Sure. Is there maybe one thing, or is there something that you'd want to share with some other business owners out there that are listening to this, other than the fact that we know in order to really enjoy that our lives, we really need to be healthy and fit? Is there something from a business standpoint that you'd want to share that maybe you wish you knew when you first got started?
Make as much as you can, as fast as you can, and get out early.
Really?
No, build a business that's sustainable. And you need to keep it growing. And to keep it growing, you got to be fresh. You got to be new.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be afraid to change.
Sure.
Whether it's your signs, whether it's your brochures, whether it's your business cards.
So stay updated.
Change it. There's
Stay
nothing wrong
updated.
with change it. Yeah.
Listen to the market, see
people,
the trends.
People get desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a big sign on the front of my gym.
Yeah.
Everybody in my area, I've been there 15 years. No one knows I'm there anymore.
Because they've just seen it every day.
They've seen it every day, over and over. Your brain just conditions you not to pay attention after a while.
Oh, that's true.
So the first 3 or 4 years, I was pretty much just turnkey successful because I was a new kid on the block. Everybody wondered who that guy was or what's this new business and everything else. After a while, it's like, I mean, they don't even remember what's on that corner anymore.
Yeah.
They know where the pizza place is.
Yeah.
But not where I'm at, right next door.
Yeah.
So
stay fresh, stay updated. Don't be afraid to.
Don't be afraid to change up.
Okay.
Try new things. Because if your business is stale, what do you got to lose?
Yeah, right.
And you got nothing to lose. You just found a way not to do it.
Yeah.
And then you remember that and don't repeat that.
Right.
And then try something else.
Yeah.
Ask other people too. The worst thing, and I got caught up in this. The only way you're going to find a trainer that's been training people for 35 years is you go to California. You're not going to find them out here. You won't. They're all because that's where it all started. That's where the fitness craze started, the whole bodybuilding thing, and that's where it's originated from. But I was getting to the point where I think when I was into it for 20 years or 15, 20 years, I thought I could predict who was going to sign up and who was going to lose weight and who wasn't. Like
Sure.
the guru. After a while, I realized, that's a dangerous area to be in. It's almost better to be surprised and expect it. So that's an attitude, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely an attitude. And I
You
can
gotta-
imagine too. I mean, someone coming
You
in.
got to be excited. And you can't try to fake excitement about what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Well, and two, if people pick up on a prejudgment that it probably doesn't do well for business either.
Yeah, and it's really it's worse for you than anybody else. Mm-hmm. Because really, your business is a reflection of you anyway.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for sharing all that.
Okay.
That's important. Very important. As I'm getting, I started thinking about it actually when I started doing some research on you a little bit, over the last week or so. I started thinking, fit over 40. I'm like, oh, okay. He works with, older people. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 40 in March. Like, this is my thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is my thing. I can't believe it. So it dawned on me that I'm like, wow, I so time flies, and it's like, if we're not paying attention, we wake up 10, 20 years down the road and things haven't changed, So I appreciate what you're doing, and I see a ton of value. I mean, like I said, the whole retirement concept to me, it dawned on me years ago that, like, oh my gosh, people talk about how much expensive retirement is. It's only expensive because a lot of it is medical, and there's so much we can do early on to prevent that and to enjoy it and to not feel like we have to slow down.
Yeah.
And I look at my parents today versus my grandparents. My grandparents always looked old to me. My parents now are older than they were, and they still look like they are very healthy, not old people. Yeah. And it's just, we're living longer, guys. We got to take care of ourselves. So a big, high five to you for doing it for 35 years, and the lives you helped change, and the attitudes you've helped change, I'm sure has been really rewarding.
That is rewarding. I mean, that's, I've always said that, especially in this gym for the last 15 years. Yeah. I think I get more benefit from the relationships with people.
Oh, man. I totally see that.
Income.
Janet, tell us a little bit about, you've been in your practice for over 30 years, and, you've just, what I know about you and what I've learned from you from a tax side is remarkable. You are truly a practitioner of perfection. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you transitioning from being basically a staff accountant, CPA, to becoming a partner and then developing it into your own company.
Okay. Well, I started back in the mid-'80s, also right out of college, and I actually made partner at 28.
Oh, nice.
So there wasn't a big transition. I was kind of ambitious, motivated when I started. I knew my end plan was to be a partner in a CPA firm. I think the change, where it came from is initially, in my younger days, my plan was to be a partner of a larger CPA firm, a big group, maybe 50, 80 people, multi-office kind of thing. And then as the years went by, I realized I had a passion to develop relationships and to have this one-on-one type with the clients, and sort of business but family kind of feeling. From that standpoint, I wanted to be large enough to be successful and to provide for them, but to also be small enough that we could have that, as you had said, the relationships and the accountability to spend quality time with each client and not just be just numbers.
Yeah.
So that was where I switched over in 92. I came up here to Roswell and merged in my partnership with another larger firm, and then in 2001 is when I made the transition to start my own firm, which was a smaller, kind of going out on my own and starting the continuation of where I am now. So.
And do you feel like that the models that you were a part of from the early on partnerships, a lot of times people will look back at their parents and say, well, I don't ever want to be like that at all. So therefore they kind of model their life to be different from their parents. The firms that you came out of, were they similar in that boutique-y feel, but yet large enough from a revenue standpoint, or did you have to kind of almost break off some of your past and say, I'm going to be different? What was that transition?
Okay. Actually, I guess I'm glad you mentioned that the person who was the senior partner of the firm that I started with back in '85 with Tony Halligan. Even though he was the senior partner of the firm, I think he kind of was my mentor and molded a lot of what I am today. Was from that, seeing him with the clients, watching him, the way he worked with his clients and the way they just loved him and created this, this bond that was, hard to quantify or, just wanted something there. And that actually, I'm, proud that longevity that now, 30, 35 years later, I have clients that started with me when I was a staff accountant back in '85. And now I'm doing, now their grandchildren are coming. And, family business, and it grows, and I grow with them, and we get to see that evolution of their business as they grow and retire and pass on to others and pass down. So it's like, I enjoy that.
Yeah. That's it's got to be rare. I mean, I imagine CPAs would aspire to that, but for it to be as authentic as that is, that's great. What's the biggest challenge in keeping your business that way? I mean, you've got to have, at this point, hundreds of clients. How do you manage that?
The biggest challenge is time. Like being able to, just spread myself thin enough to be able to do that, and finding that balance of having being large enough to be able to serve and all of the clients that that need that and want that service, and bringing on new staff and training them and explaining the philosophy, the attitude, and having other people to, in the practice to carry that on and to be able to grow and still maintain that type or that level of service. I think that's the challenge. I mean, and that sense of kind of wanting to personally be involved in it, micromanaging everything and knowing where to draw the line.
Yeah. Both of you guys run businesses that are very dependent upon your, who you are. How is it, or, do you, and Janet, more for you right now, and Brett, we'll come back to it if you want to kind of tap into this question, but the question of building a business where you have people underneath you and you manage them to kind of allow you to do more with, with more clients, but, touch it. How do you deal with that from a delegating to somebody to handle something as delicate as their taxes and that relationship?
I think the process that we found that works was first, finding a partner, like Lynn, who shares my philosophy, and that that we're in sync with our goals of how we want to manage the firm, how we want to relate to the clients, what we're trying to achieve, and then from there, just a team. I think we've found by trial and error that the thing that works best is to have a team assigned to each client, so that we're working at some level. Each of us are working with the client on, providing the service that they need, and then doing, the push down for the more, like we used to call it, the grunt work, back in the lower, level stuff to be done by the staff accountant, but still try to, manage the team so that everyone's doing for the client what they do best.
Yeah.
And as we get older, I'll say this: one of the things that the younger people do that we don't do it quite as well is the technology. By having a team around us, we all work to our strengths and provide the client the best possible service by everyone bringing their unique gifts to the
table.
To the table to service that client.
Yeah, it's nice having multiple perspectives, especially when you're dealing with business owners.
Yeah.
And the way that you guys do, to have the ability to have someone else in the room that may see things totally differently, to add in their 2 cents,
right,
could help that, in some, big or small way. During this tax season, I mean, so much has changed with the tax law recently. What are you finding are the biggest, what do you think the biggest changes are? And what are people doing about it? What are you doing differently based upon what we're dealing with?
The biggest changes as with the new tax law changes.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
I've
pretty
got tons
much
of questions for you
I
on
mean,
this.
it's like out with the old, in with the new.
Right.
This is the biggest change in 30 some odd years. I think
Yes.
the last time we had a change remotely of this caliber was back in '87, right after I started. So this is
Yeah.
like a career change for those old enough to remember the '87 reform. This
Oh, yeah.
is like a
It was big.
major.
So
it's just a
what,
whole turnover. The forms look different.
Oh, man.
All of the rules are different. Everything is pretty much everything has changed. It's all different.
Okay, so what are, I mean, where do you begin, right? Where are some, like, I think I'm an S Corp, and so I look at some of those changes. Is there a certain area that you feel like is like something that everyone should be learning about right now in this podcast, as far as the changes, what to do differently?
With small
What to
business,
expect?
with small business owners, a big deal is entity selection, which was always an issue, but even more so now because there's so many with the new tax law changes and what we'll call the Section 199A deductions, where small business owners can get generally can possibly get a 20% deduction of their income, which will about puts them on kind of even foot, gives them an advantage that the larger C Corps are getting with the lower tax rates. So there are certain rules, limitations, and past issues that you have to go through to figure out if you qualify and how to maximize that.
Are you
so
talking
figuring
about
out the entity type of entity is important from a standpoint of how much how much you may be able to deduct under these new laws, being able to manage your Social Security tax, and how much you're going to be able to, being able to save taxes in that arena, and other, how much whether you want to put money away for retirement. There's all these different considerations. So you have to kind of interview get to know the client, get to know
Sure.
their goals, where they are in life, what they're trying to achieve, where they are now, where they want to go, and then help them figure out how, when, and to how to operate as a partnership, an S corp, just straight up sole proprietor.
So let's for the listeners to understand, there's different entities. Quickly, just run through the entities, and let's talk about the difference between a sole proprietor and an S corp, which are kind of the initial steps. If you're not, I mean, even a partnership could be within that realm. But let's focus on that side, and then we'll move up if we need to into the C corp.
Okay. Well, I find that most people, when they decide to go out, leave the corporate world and start a business for themselves, they'll start as an LLC. They'll get an attorney to do it, or they'll go themselves to the Secretary of State's office and they form their LLC. And that's where people come into us really confused, because they think that's the end of the story. Oh, I'm an LLC. But as an LLC, you can be a sole proprietor, you could be an S corp, or you could be a partnership. If you are an LLC, if you start as an LLC and you're just one person, you're the one owner of your company, then you default as a sole proprietor. For income tax purposes, your entity is ignored, and you're just a Schedule C on your personal tax return. If you you can make an election as a single member LLC. You could make an election to convert your LLC to an S corp, in which case now you have a separate entity. It's a flow-through entity, generally doesn't pay tax.
And a flow-through means
it
what?
flows through and comes back via a K-1 back to your personal tax return. But you do file a separate Form 1120-S. Now you're in a new world, because as a sole proprietor, you really didn't have to do double entry accounting. You could focus on your P&L and just put your income and expenses on a Schedule C on a personal return in a simplified method. With an S corp, now you've got to do bookkeeping. So for sure, if you haven't already, with the sole proprietor deal, you really need to get QuickBooks or some sort of bookkeeping package, and start to track your debits and credits, incoming expenses, and look at your balance sheet and your capital, and have a set of books. You file a separate tax return.
Sure.
And
So,
then you also have to do payroll. If you have no other employees, as an S corp, you are an employee of now. You're an employee of your company.
Right.
You have to pay yourself a salary, so you're in the world of payroll compliance. And then you have to there's a need for planning to analyze and consolidate your personal back to the business, and figure out the optimum way to manage money funds back and forth.
Yeah.
So it gets more complicated.
A lot more complicated, but now
but
from a
there's
tax
potential for
standpoint,
tax savings.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about what that means this year for taxes. So what's someone who's a sole proprietor, what are the benefits from a tax standpoint or the negatives, and then the S corp? Because the reason why you'd want to be an S corp is usually because of taxation.
Right.
And there's other, you kind of elevate your business, but at the same time, what happens now with our new tax laws?
Well, okay, with the new tax laws, before the new tax laws, back in the prior to 2018,
Yeah.
you wanted to be concerned about, as an S corp, you wanted to make sure that you were paying yourself a reasonable salary, and therefore you wanted to, manage that reasonable salary and decide, if you want to keep it as low as possible because you want to pay the least amount of, you only pay the Social Security tax on the portion that you declare as W-2 wages to yourself. So that was where you have a potential to be able to save some Social Security tax. If we use for easy math, if you've got an entity a sole proprietor that makes $100,000 as a net income after expenses, and as a sole proprietor, they would pay 15.3% Social Security and Medicare on that $100,000. Their Social Security tax alone would be approximately $15,000, and that's before you get to the federal and the state income tax. Okay, so as an S corp, you only paying yourself a salary, the S corp wages are not subject to the Social Security tax. You only pay the Social Security tax on the portion you declare as a salary. So what if you declared your salary at, say, a third of that, or $33,000? Now you're looking at roughly, $5,000 of Social Security tax versus $15,000. So there's a potential to save. Save there. And then with the new tax, the new Section 199, the small business deduction.
Yeah.
As an S corp, you would get your 100,000 minus your salary left, say 65,000 left. That number times you could potentially, depending on the type of business you are and how much other income subject to other testing limitations, possibly get a 20% deduction of the net income after your expenses and after your salary.
So an S corp can get 20% deduction. That's not just like a standardized $20,000.
Right, and it's not there again. There's you would need to talk to your tax advisor, and they would have to look at your entire financial picture and go through several tests to get to that deduction. And then also as a Schedule C sole proprietor, you're still entitled to that deduction under certain circumstances. So there's also, again, that's where you got to run the test, because depending on what your other income is, what your adjusted gross income is, what the type of business is, multiple factors, it may or may not be more advantageous for purposes of getting that deduction to be a Schedule C versus an S corp. That's why this is the year that it's really important to work with a tax professional and have them run those numbers and do that analysis to help you make the determination.
Yeah, so it sounds like
you.
It's almost like the way you just described it, I feel like it's unknown whether or not this year the tax changes were better or worse for small business owners.
Yeah, and it depends. It's that famous, it depends. Everybody's situation is different, and for some people it's a major benefit. Other people may possibly find that they're paying a little more, or that there's a little change It just
I've
all
heard
depends.
a lot of frustration coming
lot of
from
frustration.
online and everywhere else about this is really hosing me. You know,
Yeah.
that people are getting hit with taxes they just didn't see coming.
Yes.
Are you finding that as well in reality, or is it just an online
I'm thinking it's a lot of
commentaries?
confusion. A lot of people just are not aware of, the the extent of the changes. And it's like in one case they may lose a deduction here, but they gain over their tax rates less overall. But where this deduction went away, alt men maybe went down. Something by the time you put it all together, it's always like it's a crapshoot as to how they.
Sounds like this is a good year to have somebody look at it overall,
Right.
because they may be frustrated because they're doing their taxes the same way, and they're missing something that is going to offset where they may be getting hit.
And this is the year you got to learn to be, and it's hard for accountants, but we have to learn to live with some uncertainty.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It seems like they made that change, and then no one really had a chance to understand it, and then we all just have to pay for the fact that there was all that uncertain unknowns.
Right.
I mean, how are they? I mean, I don't want to sit here and get onto a rant, but how are they going to put us in that position to where no one knows? It's kind of like, well, never mind. It's just seems strange that they would. None of us had a chance to really evaluate what we should be doing in order to best position ourselves. I mean, I just kind of.
Well, those are, if you were, working with a good accounting firm, a CPA, you should have started back in 2017.
Yes.
Back before you got to 2018, and you're being reactive or just taking
Right.
it.
So that's and that's what I really
doing
wanted.
the planning, that's where
Yes.
your team of professionals could help you, because planning and strategizing is more important than ever now to make sure you're positioning yourself to take advantage of
And that's really the value of working with someone like you over like just waiting to do TurboTax or something.
Right.
Is that the odds are that having someone that you are interacting with on a regular basis, you're going to be told what to do,
Right.
Ahead of time.
And,
You're going to be able to make adjustments. But by not, and that's what people don't understand, is really having, as a business, developing that team around you, even whether it's on a fractional level or whether it's within a professional relationship with just your CPA. Having a financial team or having a marketing, team, whether or not they're in-house or just part of someone keeps you updated, right? Allows you to understand where things you can do to give yourself more exposure. Or in this case, the reality is, somebody who waited until after the year is closed out, they may find themselves where they didn't do certain things that could have had a big difference.
And then
So
you
the-
just take take what the chips fall. Yeah.
So if I don't even have to even ask you the question now, I want to just say it out loud. What is the one thing that you would provide some advice on for small business owners? If you were to say one thing, and I almost feel like we just hit it on the head.
I think my advice would be to put together that team. If you haven't already, to put together your CPA, and within the CPA firm, the aforementioned team that we will put together for you to service your tax, accounting, bookkeeping, compliance, all the other needs that you would have as a small business owner. But your attorney, your banker, financial advisor,
Fractional
if you can,
CFO,
a fractional CFO, that type of, so that all of you have advisors helping you to be successful, and so you can go out and do your operations, do what you do well, and know that these people have your back,
Right.
and that we're looking out for
They're
you.
doing it in pieces along the way, rather than having to try to. I mean, it's so often I've seen. I mean, just that all of a sudden the business owner shows up with the CPA or shows up with the accountant and says, "Here's my mess," and it's like,
Yes.
what can we do? We've got some other clients. So to have a team, establish that relationship, and then develop a cadence of
Exactly.
meetings along the way
And then
makes
when
it so
someone-
much easier. People can digest information appropriately,
Right.
and gives you that true proactive
Yes,
stance.
We
And
say
that's a
when they
place of
come in
strength.
with their someone new business owner or someone who's been trying to do it themselves and finally realize this isn't working.
Yeah.
And they come in to meet with us. We give them what I call the ground zero, where we just get the compliance caught up, figure it all out, get them into a good place. Then we can launch into the planning and the consulting and figuring out what changes need to be made and how they need to structure themselves.
We have a mutual client, and this year they made a big purchase, and they bought a truck for the business. And just seeing the advice that was provided to them, where the depreciation was taken in such a way, really helped them out. I mean, it was a huge thing. So
things that you may even be aware of that you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably saved them in a big way, because I'm pretty sure they weren't ready for that one. So I know that the value of that proactive, and of course you've helped me. So
and another way, this would be two things, but as a small business owner, you're not getting that W-2. That you're not having your money withheld from a W-2. So you're going to come out okay at the end of the year. You have to be responsible for your own taxes, and you're all excited you're making money, and you're not realizing how much of that money needs to be set aside and saved. So many times it's like a joke, that people, you tell them how much they come in with their stuff, you prepare their return, and no planning ahead of time. Someone just comes in cold, and so here's your surprise, here's your tax liability, and they're like, I have no money. That's not right. This can't be right. I don't know taxes. I have no money. They have no money because they spend it on things that were not tax deductible, but now it's time to pay their taxes. So to have that structure as a small business owner, I encourage the client to set aside a separate savings account and keep a portion of a percentage of what they're making.
You hit on if I could add
so it's there for their taxes.
Yeah, so running the system that I run with Profit First, it's we set up the 5 accounts, and you want to pay your profit first, and you want to make sure that your owner pay is there. You got to make sure the taxes are there too, and it's one of our segmented buckets is to make sure that every transaction, these things are built into it, because at the end of the year it feels so good to have to pay taxes.
Right.
Because that means your business is doing great. That means you've done the right things, and with the right tax team, you're paying only what you owe. But when you finally you can actually write that check, because all throughout the year you were putting aside. It's just, it's amazing the stress that business owners have from a financial standpoint of knowing all these demands are going to be on them, and to remove those demands, using the right kind of a cash flow methodology
and if you overfund, it's better to overfund the account, and then that pleasant surprise, the happiness.
Well, that's the refund, right?
That's the small business owner refund.
But the nice thing is that you were earning interest on that money the whole time. You weren't giving it to the IRS. So, listen, guys, we got to wrap up, but it's been really great, Brett, hearing about your story, and just hearing how you've developed your business, and knowing how important accountability is in trying to get right health-wise is something that I picked up on, and obviously why I continue to fail in that arena.
We all do to some extent.
Janet, you fantastic. Like I said, you are truly the perfect CPA in my mind. I love that boutique feel. Being able to actually still be large enough to help a lot of folks, but at the same time keep that relationship. And you too, Brett, maintain that connection with your client base. It really makes you guys something special. So thank you guys so much. Anything as far as Brett goes, how can people here find you? What are the best routes for them?
They can go to betterbodiesmarietta.com.
Okay.
And go to my website, and they can check out everything about my facility, what I offer, ways to contact me. They can get to know my personal trainers and myself, and learn more about the business.
Great.
I've got a video on there that I'm speaking, and they can pretty much get it all in a nutshell off the video. Something
else that I found just in looking for you is that you do have a way to help someone with meal plans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Online. So even if someone isn't ready to commit to a ongoing, they can still come to your site and pick up some things to better themselves.
That's the gym where people come in for hands-on, one-on-one training.
Sure.
but I do the Fit Over 40 trainer.
Mm-hmm.
That's fitover40trainer.com. And that's where they can do it in the comfort of their own home.
Yeah.
All the workout exercise programs are developed for in-home use. So that's, like you said earlier, it's convenient. And they can do it on their own schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And they can choose whatever plan they want. There's 3 different plans they can choose from. And they can do a basic all the way to, a gold plan.
They can introduce themselves to you, your program, and get used to
Yeah.
things. And then,
Yeah.
As they develop that, come into
Yeah.
the gym. I mean, because like you said, I mean, if without accountability, those people often fall off.
Yeah.
But
And I'm the kind of person where, even if it's online,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody has questions, sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and call them.
No, that's great.
I don't spend time sitting there returning 50 or 75 emails.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just call them directly. And when you hear somebody's tonality and the honesty in their voice, and you can actually talk them through things that you'll never get through in emails or texts going back and forth.
Sure.
So
there's a lot of ways to connect with you. I'd encourage everyone to,
Yeah.
if they're at that stage and they're willing to make a commitment, to look into it. Janet, tell us a little bit about where your practice is and how can people reach out to you during this tax time to get things figured out. And
Okay,
do
we're
what they gotta
located in Roswell, behind the Andretti's off of Alpharetta Highway. And,
it's the Raceway.
off of yeah. And then our website is www.KillingsworthSpencerLLC.com.
Nice. And is there a phone number? Because sometimes people are just like, I'm freaking
got a
out.
phone.
I have my
Yes,
taxes.
we have a phone number,
I gotta call
yes.
somebody.
770-552-8286.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you again so much.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it.
thank you.
All right.